Hello, everyone. Welcome to this tips for social media prospecting and contacting. We're going to show you in 3 minutes how you can start your prospecting journey and have a lot more success. Today's topic, social media prospecting and contacting. I'm Larry Duckworth. I'm going to be the moderator and also do some strategic positioning slides later. But the speaker is the expert in social media contacting and the CEO of Rare Agent, Marge Beeler. The agenda is going to be about contacting and prospecting statistics and setting up a very strong social personal profile with keywords and hashtags and Boolean search so that you will be found by prospects also. We're also going to talk about how to create compelling content that removes mental blocks that we'll go through and how to find content to repurpose that will work for you. We're going to talk about deal closing conversations. Social media starts the conversations, but it's what you finish that counts. And we're also going to go through how to have deal closing conversations, building on social contacts, and how to listen and work with the decision maker to get appointments. Appointments are really what we're after as a basis for in-the-door selling, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. The goal. We want to use social media contacting and phone contacting for B2B and P2P selling success. P2P is people to people. All enterprise or departmental deals, services, and or products are going to be such that you need to be talking face-to-face with a decision maker at some point. There are some smaller ticket products that don't require that, but all the bigger, more complex solutions do. A focus in general is on the right there, getting to appointments, and there's a process to get there. Today, though, we're going to work on the left side is to how to get to the decision maker. We'll do other things later. We have another webinar we recorded that talks about how to fill in between those two ends. You must be different and valuable. In their book, Differentiate or Die, Trout and Rivkin really lay out why you've got to be different. And several quotes about this include the battle is won or lost before the first clash of steel. You must have your differentiated value strategy ready first, or you're just pushing a rope. See, everyone is doing something in this space today. It may be weak, it may be good, but everybody thinks they're doing something. Is it CRM? Is it supply chain management? Is it data communication? Is it management services, consulting services, etc.? How are you different? That's the first thing. That gets their reptilian brain moving. Why is there value in those differences? And then different value is why they will converse with you. They're very busy, and they're probably satisfied with the as is. So you got to have different value, and we'll go through that in a few seconds. This graphic is really the nice picture. On the horizontal x-axis is why are you unique or how are you unique? And that's a very important starting point. They want to hear that first. If you just start out with value points, they've heard that 1,000 times before. Start out with how you're unique and then why that's valuable to them, and get a position in their mind that's in the upper right-hand corner. Another Trout book, Trout and Reese in Marketing Warfare, they say that the sales battle is fought in the mind of the prospect, and that mind is 80% emotional. That upper right star needs to have a strong emotional component to it. Marge, take it away.
Thank you, Larry. So I want to go over some context just so that you understand the noise that is out there, and think about how prospects are bombarded by this noise and all the different avenues that this noise can be coming in. It could be phone, email, social media. And in that, somewhere in that, is your tiny little chirp, your message. And you must compete with that noise to convince that buyer to spend time and energy, because their time and energy equals money. So we'll go through how to actually start getting through that noise and creating that unique value statement and that differentiation. So oftentimes sales reps will say, I do not have time to create content, or our company doesn't provide content. How can I find content that will educate and add value to my buyer or my clients? So these are 4 content aggregators that you can use, and a content aggregator is like a fetching service, kind of like when you throw a bone out for a dog and it comes, picks it up and brings it back. That's kind of what these do. And you can sort on category or keywords or even people or publications, and then it'll bring back that data that you can repurpose. So I think this is really interesting from Forrester Research, and it talks about what purchasers are saying about you as salespeople. So I think we all know that we're pretty good on our own companies, right, of our products, what we do. Usually we know the buyer's industry, probably 45% of the time. But this is where I think it gets really interesting, is the purchasers are saying that only 34% of you understand that buyer's role and responsibility, and that only 29% of you know the buyer's specific problems. So when you differentiate yourself and you add those values in, these are the 2 key areas you're going to want to focus on. So it's a matter of value, and I think this is really interesting. IDG did a study, and it concluded that if you do not utilize multiple sources of messaging, such as social media, to distribute your information and your content and start that engagement, you will be less able to engage. So 42% of executives say they can find relevant value. So what's that mean? It means that you have a 58% chance of improving the opportunity of relevancy and value to this executive. And that's a pretty nice number to improve. So I think this is always interesting from CSO Insights. They mention how 62%, look at that number, 62% of sales and marketing executives, they don't believe their messaging is differentiating them in the marketplace. Now, this is the same individuals and leadership that is providing you with a quota and expecting you to close business and develop revenue. So if they're not doing and don't think your company is doing a good job of differentiating yourself in the marketplace, then you must do something different. And again, you have to be different and valuable, and that's going to be on your shoulders. You need to take responsibility for that and build your own valuable statements that's going to show that differentiation yourself. You can't rely on your company if the executives are saying that they just don't believe their messaging differentiates themselves in the marketplace. So let's think about a few things on when you build a profile. Before you even start to build your own or edit your own, the things that I'd like you to do is I want you to go out to your target industry websites. I want you to go out to the type of titles, personas, we call those, that you want to target. And notice the keywords, the hashtags, even where they've gone to school, even where they might have the publications they like to read. So, for example, let's say if you're focusing on CTOs or CIOs, they might all be looking at CIO executive. You might be in the supply chain area and you notice that they're all talking about supply chain cloud synchronization. So those are the things that you want to do, is understand what these titles are doing, in this case it's CEOs. And notice their sphere of influencers, who are making decision makers at their companies, who are the influencers, who are the stakeholders, and then who are the peers and colleagues. Because what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and start thinking about your own profile and your own outreach. And I'd like everybody to think about this. This is all social profiles. Think of them as your personal websites where you can add content, information, and communicate with others. They're yours. They're not the company's. They're yours. And I also want you to live in the heart of your targets. And I want you to think about if you were asking a child or a parent what you would want to do to help them. You want to keep that mindset. Keep the target in your heart and then help them. So let's think about that. When you've gone in and aggregated all that data on the target industries and the type of titles, now you want to start using those keywords and those hashtags. You also have an ability to attach documents or highlight your college's awards. Put that in there because that's going to bring instant credibility to you. So, for example, Paul Fox is a CTO, and you'll notice that he's Salesforce.com developer and the commercial real estate applications. If you do commercial real estate, if you have a specialty with CRM and Salesforce, you would definitely want to put that into your profile. Again, you're developing the aggregate positionings relative to your target interest. Again, the target audience interest. So it's all about them, not about you. So I want to go over some value-driven conversation, and Larry does this very well. So I want you to think of 3 things, and you might want to write this down. Connectors, how you're different, and the value you'll bring. So if you look at this example, P2P is person-to-person connector. And Larry's done his research, and he knows that Bob is a fellow alumni of the Virginia Tech MBA program. And he also uses the Go Hokies, that is the mascot name. So he's put that in. Then he wants to talk about something different in the marketplace and how he's going to be different from other vendors. He's talking about the movement of cloud-based collaboration to cloud-based synchronization. And a lot of companies may not be aware that that's happening, so this is the value that Larry's bringing to this gentleman. But then he's going to talk about the value of this change to Bob's organization. So you'll notice that he talks about improved work in progress. And he talks about the inventory costs that are going to be reduced and the downtime are going to be minimized. And to an executive, especially with a big manufacturing company, that's huge. And then he offers a brief overview of why he's stating these changes are coming down the road. So he's giving credibility and educating this executive. So once you understand who your profiles are or your targets are, you've got a good profile written. Now it's time to start researching and bringing in golden nuggets of information into your messaging. So I always like to talk about the sphere of influence plus Boolean search, and I'll explain what that is in a minute, plus keywords and hashtags that will drive dialogue. So the first thing I want you to think about is your sphere of influence. Who are the decision makers? Who are the recommenders? Who are the influencers in the market? Who are your target industry players? Then we'll get into, in a minute, I'll show you how to actually conduct Boolean search strings that's going to filter through all the noise out there on the Internet and pull back the exact information you want that you're going to be able to research and pull out really great information so that now you can start a dialogue. So this is what I like to say. This is my Dahlonega gold slide. And in 1849, Dahlonega had the gold rush. I'm from, live in Georgia. And if you remember the saying, there's gold in them there hills, that started with the Dahlonega gold rush. And what I like people to think about is, in mining terms, the miners look for the red or rust color streaks in the mining walls. When they find that streak, they know that they're getting close to gold. So they get their pick tools out or their automation tools out, and they start picking away till they find that gold. I want you to take that vision and now apply it to your analysts and blogs, so that could be Wikipedia, Forrester, etc. Go to the industry portals and events, search on that, see what comes back on your Google search. Google Alerts. Google Alerts are great for being automatically alerted if some new study comes out or something comes out, an announcement on one of your clients. So those are great to save. And then Twitter streams. What people don't realize, and especially for the CTOs, people don't realize this, 58% of CTOs go to Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter to research what their peers are saying. So when they have a need, they're going to go out on social media. And it's just something they've done very well. People usually don't think a CTO is very active on social media, but they actually are. And what you can do is you can go and get their Twitter streams with the information that's being talked between different CTOs. So if you Google on YouTube on how to monitor Twitter streams, you should find that information on how to do that. The other thing is LinkedIn webinars and infographics are great. So let's say you're selling a supply chain software, and even your competitors, right? You want to go in and do a hashtag webinar and then put the topic next to it in your search, in the search menu, what you want to search on. So let's say it's a webinar and you want it on specifically supply chain, or maybe supply chain and the competitor's name, and put quotes around that. What that will do is it will bring back every webinar they've ever done. And this is a great way if you feel that your company is not differentiating yourself. Listen to some of theirs and see how they're differentiating themselves. And I'm not saying plagiarize, but take that if it's very similar to you and now improve upon it. So let's talk a little bit about simple searches and how you're going to be able to push that conversation forward. So this is a Boolean search string, and if you'd like the LinkedIn Boolean search terms and tips, I have that. I can send that to you. So in between those quotes is Kirk Campbell. He happens to be the CEO of IDC. In the next quotes, it's saying IDC, or it's spelling out the full name, International Data Corporation. So what it's doing is it's going out searching for that information, and anything that has the Kirk Campbell in the document with IDC or International Data Corp, and now also Princeton University, it's going to pull it back. And this is where you can really learn, are they doing something on earnings calls? Are they an alumni at Princeton University? And how are they using their alumni status to maybe help the community? Or have they gotten an award? These are all things that people like to hear that other people heard about them. Here's just some more such strings that you can practice and check out on your own. And then I want to talk about LinkedIn and social profiles and the search menu. So most people don't realize that first connections on LinkedIn, so let's say you, again, sell supply chain management, and one of your clients is first connection with you, and he does a lot of industry events in the supply chain. Now, let's say you want to target the director of development. In that little search bar, you can actually put whatever you want in there to search through all those connections. So in this case, I've done CEO, and this is a partner of mine, Rob Solomon's connections. And what I've done is I know that he sells similar solutions, not quite the same thing, but their companies would need rare agents, or his clients would need rare agent services. And what I've done is I've now brought back all just the CEOs. And then what I do is I control and then control mouse click on Sam Reese or whatever CEO I want to look at. It brings it up in a separate tab. And then if I want to follow up on that down the road, and this is in LinkedIn, I will save it to my contacts. I will tag it, new lead, and then under notes, I will note the first connection that I've gone in to check on his connections. And in that case, it would be Rob Solomon. So I want to also talk about the pass-along value of creating dialogue. And when you create dialogue with other individuals either similar to you or a peer, a partner, a client, he or she will pass it along and feels that your content is compelling, it will really enable people-to-people talks. So here's an example. Ted Coiney is the CEO of Meddle-It, and he also wrote a book, A Work on Social. I wrote a blog for a company, and I used his example, one of his examples, in the blog. I then mentioned it to him out on social media. He connected with me, told me it was really great, and then invited us to start blogging for Open for Business. Actually, Larry's new blog will be going up shortly, so look for that. But again, if he finds it available or valuable or anybody else does, look what they can do. They can give that to the boss. If I want him to pass out the information on a webinar, he does that, and he has 430,000 followers on Twitter. And that's huge for me. I don't have that many. So again, that's the pass-along value that you want to make sure you really utilize. And what happens is your clients end up doing the selling for you, which is even nicer because it's referral selling and they have that connection with that individual who's passed it on. So it's just really cool. So again, the engagement begins, the first thing you need to do that we always tell our clients, live in the heart of your targets or your buyers. Then figure out compelling dialogue because that's what's going to get the ball rolling. And then here are some points that we give to our own clients to start the ball rolling. So I would say give to get, but not to receive. I guess you give to get, but when you give to get, you're going to get something back in return, but don't really expect it right away because when they see that you have a giving heart, they tend to want to start interacting anyway. Concentrate on emotions and safety messages. It's all about them, not you. And then if you're on LinkedIn or even Twitter or Facebook, if a question has come up and there's an article, read the article and then answer that question. But don't say, oh, the article's great. Tell them why the article is great. On point 2, on why sales leaders are failing, you'd want to put that into the body of your response. Also with an answer, you could, or a question, you could ask something about that piece of content. So we always say start the engagement that way. And what we like to do is follow the why, what, how flow of the dialogue. Everybody tends to do the what and how, but they never put the why behind it. And I want you to focus on the why. Larry, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Marge. Now, you're going to run into lots of mental block barriers out there. We're going to go through the 4 types in the next slide, but for all of those, first of all, you have to jar them emotionally. They're into comfort zones. They're into paradigms. They're into memes. They're into habits and so forth. I won't go into the neuroscience of the primal drives, but we're all at our DNA level are focused on getting things formalized and locked in so we don't have to use energy and so forth. So everybody's kind of into a zone. You got to jar them out of it. Doesn't need negative jar, but you have to jar them. That's very, very, very important to know. The way you do that is show how you're different, because their reptilian brain's going to say, oh, maybe this is a competitive advantage differentiation here. I should listen. And then why are your differences worth more time, energy, and money? And time is the most important thing. They're all busy. You're just trying to move them through a process of giving you more time to dialogue, leading to a person-to-person appointment down the road. But you have to jar them first, show how you're different. That jar has to be some compelling grab, what the value that is, and therefore move them down the sales cycle. Now, there are 4 types of mental blocks. And kind of in order, but the second one is the most important. Not aware of improvement options. Again, they're into their own world. They're into their formulas. They're into their views of things. The 10% innovators are out there looking around, but the rest kind of aren't. So you have an opportunity here to educate them as a consultative seller, a challenger seller, to jar them. Did you know this is the new state of the art? Did you know that now your competitor now ahead of you? Those types of things to us have them say, oh my gosh, I wasn't aware of that. So, and they'll have some obligation to you if you make them aware of that. Number two is the big one, status quo. They may read, but they have, what we're doing is okay, and we're in the groove. I want to rock the boat, and that rock the boat can be a real issue for change management resistance, because when you rock the boat, you might fall out of the boat and get reorganized. So the status quo comfort is usually the biggest nemesis you have, and you need to find a way to jar them out of that and for their own self-interest and so forth. The number one way to do that is the safety primal drive, deep down in your reptilian brain, fight or flight. And to the degree that you can help them avoid this problem, avoid that problem, avoid this danger, that really starts to say, okay, maybe the status quo has passed and I need to think a little bit. They might be satisfied with their existing vendor. That's where your differentiations need to be very, very sharp. And every service and or product provider today has a lot of competitors. Some of them have market share, some don't. But make sure that you have your differentiation versus the biggest ones in your space. And then sometimes it's a combination of those things. So you got just understand you're not going into an environment that thinks like you. You're an innovator. You have to be because you're in sales. They're kind of locked in for one reason or another, and you have to pierce that locked-in status, and it could be any one of these four. So let's talk about deal close conversations. First of all, you have to pique their interest. You got to be different. You have to be valuable. You have to have a sense of urgency. This is very, very important. Make sure that you find a must-do status for your solution versus nice to do or should do. The must-do is going to get deal energy. I have a good friend who runs a venture capital group here, and he does not invest in any company where their solution isn't such that if the buyer doesn't implement that solution, they're going to get fired in 6 months. Now, that's a raw must-do, but those types of attitudes are there. I could give you story after story. In my last blog about being a sheepdog for your customers talks about what you can do to set up must-do situations for their career safety. So find that gives you urgency out of that process. And educate them. Take their mind to new places they wouldn't get to. Be a consultant to them. That's the essence of challenger selling. And so you have to do all of those things. Support your story. Talk is cheap. Expertise, evidence, a solid value statement, objections handling. In our SOAR training, we teach people how to handle 5 types of objections and turn them into deal energy versus deal resistance. And it's a real art, but we teach how to do that. Enable phone discussions to lead to personal appointments, which is what has to happen before true in-the-door selling can start. And then also that will lead to your future. Now, we have the SOAR Selling logo. I'm a trainer in SOAR Selling, and so is Di Alexis, who authored SOAR Selling. It is an amazing prospecting system that it just amazing results for hundreds and hundreds of companies. Marge, I'll put it back to you.
Well, thanks, Larry. So what I'd like to do is open it to questions and answers. The chat window is over to the left, so I will give you a few minutes to write those questions. And to incentivize you, we have some signed books that Larry has written that we will give to the first person who puts a chat out there. One is for primordial leadership. One is on primordial B2B selling and success, and one is on primordial B2B sales management. And I've read them, and they're great, especially how the reptilian brain works. Okay, it looks like Mike has put in a question. Larry, I'm going to take this one. He says, what is the best social media platform to talk with decision makers? Well, Mike, it depends on who you're selling to and what the target industry is. So, for example, if you're selling B2B solutions and a lot of it's software technology, you would want to look at LinkedIn and be able to start searching on LinkedIn and engaging in communications and sending content. If it's another group that does a lot of events, let's say it's an analyst and they do a lot of events, it might be on their Facebook page. But what we find for business, the top three that we typically see companies use is LinkedIn, either Facebook or Twitter, and then YouTube or Vimeo. It's like a YouTube but with analytics. Okay, I got another one, Larry. It is, what are some different ways to show you are different?
Well, what I use is a very simple KISS structure. I taught the Capstone Marketing course, University of Minnesota system at one time, and I really like Eugene McCarthy's 4 Ps as a way to do it. It's a way to organize things, and it's very understandable to the prospect. Product, and that, of course, is product and service. And what sub-bullets under that make you different than the industry standard and or competitors? And that's the richest area. The next, what is your pricing difference? You might have better lease terms, better terms in this regard, et cetera, et cetera. They may have quantity discounts, et cetera. What is your placement strategy? What is the ease of access that you have? You're going through distributors they're working with and so forth. So why are you different than what they're doing now or what's happening in the industry? Promotion is really not one you can use a lot in most B2B businesses, but it's out there too to think through. So what you need to do is have under each one of those some sub-bullets that define your differentiation. That'll vary by target market, and that'll also vary by your major competitors. Now, if you will email Marge, we'll send you a table that we use for you to go through and list those in a visual way so that you and your salespeople can know what your differentiations are. And by the way, that's very critical for the messaging overall too. So that table is very valuable. I've used it since probably 1987.
Great. And the follow-on to that question is, how about what are ways to present their value? So besides being different, how would they show their value?
Well, in my neuroscience books, as I studied why people do what they did, I found that neuroscience and sociobiology had the deepest answers. But there was a great professor named Edward de Bono wrote a book called Surpetition, How to Surpass the Competition. And he lists in there 4 generic benefits that really encompass the 6 primal drives in my books. And so I like simple approaches. The first one is very straightforward: economic gains, revenues increases, cost decreases, other financial factors, and those are value points once you show you're different. The next one is safety. It's amazing how people want to increase their safety or reduce their risks and so forth. Compliance falls in this area. If fast technology change, you're going to get unsafe pretty quickly if you don't innovate and so forth. So another value point is we can, Mr. Prospect, make you the safest in these ways. Third is ease and speed. It is a primal drive to be lazy. It's in our DNA, and to procrastinate, to not do things till it's time. So you want to show customers how you're going to make their job easier, how it's going to be done faster, or how your implementation is going to be easier or done faster. People really value that. Convenience sells. And last but not least is flexibility and growth. Those are based on the hope drive. Hope springs eternal. So if you can show them how your initial purchase is more flexible for them and helps them grow seamlessly over time, people really respond to that. And again, this table on the left side has the 4 Ps for the differentiations, and the columns are those 4 generic benefits from Surpetition. So it's a good way to organize your different value positioning.
Thanks, Larry. And the last question, how do you get the prospect out of their status quo comfort?
Well, it really comes down to artful jarring. You don't want to be negative. You got to watch out if you use fear messages, there's a heavy fear message that might tick them off. There's a mild fear message that probably won't get their attention. So what you want to do is a medium fear message. I use fear a lot because that's their first primal drive. Do I flee or not? If they pay attention to that more than anything else, if you study neuroscience, that is the first cut. Should I get out of here? Should I flee? So I'm a big fan of using avoids and those types of things for the jar. Don't be left behind. Why is your competitor much more better on the KPIs than you? Things like that. Are you doing the following 5 innovations your competitors are? You've got to jar them, because I can 100%, 90% I can guarantee they're into comfort zones. They really want things to be stable and not change. 10% innovators don't, but that's not a big part of the market. If you read a great book on that, it's Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm. He really lays out the adoption cycle and the psychographics of how a product is adopted. So what you really want to do is make sure you use that to how to jar that prospect out of their comfort zone in a way that they like. You can't make them angry. You can't make them feel bad, but you have to jar them in a way they say, hey, that sounds interesting. Tell me more. That's really what you're after.
Thanks, Larry. And that was great information that you shared with everybody. Sometimes we have newer sales reps on the phone. Sometimes we have very experienced, but sometimes just to have that refresher is really rewarding to everybody. So the winner is Mike. So Mike, if you will send me your name or email address and address to actually ship the book to marge@rareagent.com. We will get you the book that you choose. And again, we really enjoy this exchange of information. Larry just is a breath of fresh air and a wealth of information with his experience of, having run 4 different companies as CEO, sometimes as CSO, sometimes CMO. He really has a great broad perspective. If you'd like to contact us, here's our information. And again, we will send this recording out, so you'll be able to jot this information down. And then we just want to say thank you. Larry, I want to thank you for putting this together and allowing me to come in and share a little bit of my expertise, and you sharing your expertise. We really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure, and have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.